Fight for what's right. Fight for your life.
Well, all right. This will be fun. What a week. What a week. I think a lot of people, not just in Minnesota, but a lot of people all around the country, any freedom-loving individual, was a little disappointed that night. I mean, all the pollsters, everybody was talking red wave, and obviously there was no red wave. If anything, there was like a little blue ripple that, unfortunately, Minnesota was big enough to take back the state Senate. They kept the state House. In fact, there was no movement in the state House. There are still 64 Republicans, it looks like. There's some tight races out there still. Some within, like, I think Mary, oh, shoot, what is her name? The gal up in the Iron Range in the Duluth area. I think she lost by like 23 votes. So some of the stuff might go to a recount, but boy, it looks like the DFL has the state Senate. They have the state House. The majority of 6 maybe moves a little bit, which is exactly what they've had for the last 2 years. And then, of course, Tyrant Timmy gets reelected. And I'm still shell-shocked. I mean, how Democrats across the country for 2 years have been wielding these tyrannical powers and politicizing COVID. Lockdowns, mask mandates, vaccine mandates, like crazy, crazy stuff. And now it appears they have paid no political price whatsoever. So I think they're going to be way more emboldened than they have been. And you guys have probably heard me talk about there's very, very few, if any, historical state senator Republicans that are worth a damn. That's going to change here in January with people like Drazkowski and Cal Barr getting in there, and Nate Wiesenberg. Oh man, that's just going to be fun. But at least in the past, the state Senate Republican held they stopped gun control. They stopped some of these things. They were somewhat of a reliable backstop, not all the time by any means. So that is what we're looking at in Minnesota. For those who don't know, I lost on Tuesday night as well, which means when you look at the state House, Munson, who voted well, he didn't run again. Cal Barr, who voted well, he's off to the Senate. Drazkowski's Senate. Tim Miller didn't run again. John Heinrich, who voted decent from time to time, he lost. Eric Lucero, he ran for Senate. Like, the 5 or 6 Republicans in the state House that actually would vote their principles and honor their constitutional oath, well, they are not there anymore. So literally the state House at this point, and there's a bunch of new people, so I probably shouldn't, be throwing out the rhino term at every single one of them because they still have to cast some votes. But there's a severe lack of leadership in the House. And that's what made me think about this, that if I rewind 2 years ago, the Thursday after the election and the Friday morning after the election, I know what these guys are about to go through. So do me a favor, if you guys are friends with the people like Elliot Engel or Walter Hudson or some of these newly minted Republican legislators, share this video, send it right to them, because I'm about to walk through how exactly good people become bad politicians and how they sell out. And I think oftentimes they don't even realize that they're selling out. But I'm going to walk through these things. I've got it categorized into 4 stages. And I would imagine Republican or Democrat, it probably doesn't matter. I think everybody goes through this because leadership is leadership, and their own interests are getting reelected and this quest to be in the majority, and how they use these things against the members of their caucuses to water them down. And literally the weakest of weak Republicans end up controlling the entire Republican caucus at the Capitol. And then ultimately, I think what that happens is it doesn't motivate anybody. Like, when you see Republicans are no different than Democrats, people are like, well, then why? Who cares? Whatever. So I think when we don't exhibit being a true opposition party, offering alternative ideas, we motivate nobody. And especially, even if they're talking about alternative ideas and being in opposition while campaigning, their voting record, as I always talk about, and that's frankly all I care about at the Capitol, is how do they vote? How they vote and what bills they sponsor and co-sponsor. That's how they communicate to you, their constituents. And how they vote and the bills they sponsor and co-sponsor is like crazy different from what they tell you come campaign season. So I want to check some comments because I'm using a different mic and nobody's saying they cannot hear me. So I'm going to assume you can hear me. All right. So I'm going to dive into this. And again, I rarely ask people to share videos. I should do this more often, but share this because you will not hear this from anybody else. And that's why I'm going to keep in this fight. My mission is preserving liberty for the next generation. Obviously, it's not going to be in the Capitol these next 2 years, and so be it. That's fine. I still have a real job, but I'm going to keep monitoring what they do at the Capitol, keep doing videos and showing you guys how you're getting stabbed in the back. But tonight, it is 5:36, Thursday after the election. Right now, or at least in the matter of the next hour or so, the House Republican Caucus is doing their victory dinner, which there isn't much to celebrate, let's be honest. But they're going to do their victory dinner. And then tomorrow morning, they have their first caucus meeting. And again, as I was thinking about this today, I thought, I've got to do this live video because people need to know the people that they literally voted for 2 days ago. The vast majority of them, and maybe some will prove me wrong. By God, I hope they all prove me wrong. But a lot of especially the newly elected Republican legislators that you voted for 2 days ago, by Saturday morning will have sold out. And hopefully that leaves you asking, how the hell is that possible? Because that's what I'm about to answer. I'm going to take and walk you through my experience 2 years ago and what I witnessed and how I've categorized sort of the life cycle of a legislator, or at least most of these guys. Obviously, I took the different path, which I'll get to, where there's like this crossroads where eventually you have to pick a path. And unfortunately, most of them go down this path that I call sellout street. That's the path that most are going to choose. And again, please prove me wrong. Elliot proved me wrong. Walter proved me wrong. Please. So how does somebody even fall into the swamp, right? Like, what is the swamp? How does someone fall into it? What happens to these guys? You all just met. You saw these guys campaigning for the last 6 months. I guarantee pretty much everybody out there is like, hey, I met that guy. He's a good guy. He'll do well. But I'm telling you, most of the time they don't. And again, that goes by voting records. So how does it happen? I'm happy to tell you. And I'm going to really emphasize first-time legislators, because the people who have been up there more than one term at this point, with what I said, this mass exodus from the House and people moving up in chambers, the people who've already been there more than one term, they're gone, man. They are gone. They are like sold out. They're on what I call it, sellout street. They're already on it. And you got sellout street, and then you've got what I call it, Principled Boulevard. And those two roads are diverging roads. So the longer you get down sellout street, the harder it is to get back to Principled Boulevard. But so here we go. Stage one. I think this is where most everybody runs for office, where they start. I don't care if you're running for mayor, U.S. Congress. If it's your first time running, I think that's a huge caveat. If it's your first time running, you've never been in office. Stage one to me is good person decides to run for office and build a better world, right? They see things are broken, and by golly, they want to change it. So to me, that is step one. It's innocence, it's naivete. They're in it for the right reasons, but of course, they've got some learning to do, and I think they're going to get tossed into this thing with not knowing any better. In fact, before I get into stage two, I've been trying to reach out a lot of these first-time candidates, or at least, but like I know Elliot, he's already ran before. So I'm trying to reach out to a lot of these guys over the last couple of weeks just to say, hey man, are you willing to hear what's about to happen to you? If you are, I will walk you through all of this so you've got wide open eyes and they do not take advantage of your greenness. And so a handful of people, heard me out. And one in particular was like, "You've got to be kidding me." He said, "I was hoping what you had to say would make no sense because obviously in my 2 years, they've cast me as some crazy guy." So he said, "I was hoping what you said wasn't going to make any sense, but you're making a lot of sense." And in fact, he said, "I wish I could go back to being naive." So this is real stuff. Believe me or not. If you don't want to believe me, well, that's your own risk you're taking. But I think the more people who know what's about to happen to these new legislators that I bet everybody out there's met and they've liked, they're good people because they're in this stage one, they're innocent. The more you know what they're going to live through, the more empowered you are to call these people and check in with them over these next several days, weeks, even months. Because I'm telling you, by this weekend, most will be well into this life cycle. So stage two, right? Stage one, just being good person, just wants to do something and then improve their country. Honorable. Stage two, I've called it ass hickeys. Like this happens right away. I mean, especially in solidly held districts. So if someone runs in like a 70-30 district, a Republican district, deep red district, as soon as they're the nominee, this stage two is kicking in. Like they've got hickeys all over their rear end because all this butt kissing, mayors, other representatives, state senators, anybody in the political class, which does include outside groups. You should keep that in mind. This isn't just the politicians, these special interest groups, they are all over these people and they are so far up their butt and whining them and dining them. That is stage two, right? And I guarantee everybody who just got elected 2 days ago, and again, I'm talking first timers. Everybody who just got elected 2 days ago, they're absolutely at least in stage two. No doubt about it, because I guarantee Tuesday night came and they win. Who's calling them? Well, they've got, Minority Leader Dowd calling them. The Rhino of the Year. If you've missed it, I gave him the award of Rhino of the Year because he spent hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars against the best conservatives in the Capitol, including myself. So everybody's at least in stage two right now. All right. And then that stage, it never frankly ends. This thing is perpetual. So the whole time they're in office, their butt is getting kissed. Now, some might take a similar path that I took around Principal Boulevard, and suddenly the lobbyists stop calling you. I don't know. I don't get it. When they realize you can't be bought or have your butt kissed enough to do what they want you to do. And then, like I said, right now, if not now, within the next hour, their victory dinner is starting. The Republican House Caucus, or the House Republican Caucus. Victory dinner is being held, and they are going to get schmoozed to high heaven by everybody there. They're going to be like, "It's so good to have you here. We're so excited to have you here," which sounds sincere. I get that, maybe I sound jaded or something when I say like that. But what I think my point of this, though, is people tend to think, especially this guy I talked to last week, who was his first time running. He said something like, "Well, I'm waiting for the shoe to drop." He said, "I'm waiting for Dowd to call me and say, 'Damn it all, you do what you're told.'" And I said, "Dude, that is not how they do it. What they do is they kiss your butt. They get you to know them, to like them, to trust them. They convince you that you are their best friend." Dowd even calls it a family. He says, "We are a family here." And then they leverage that relationship against you down the road, which I will get to. So just know, and again, if you're sharing this with people who just got elected, you're not going to get, lashings tonight or tomorrow morning at the caucus meeting. It's going to be buttering you up to make you go, "Man, I like these people, and these are my people now," and it makes you think you can trust them. But believe me, that friendship, it's about as deep as this card. You see that? That's about the depth of friendships that happen at the Capitol. Like the saying is, I think it's if you want a friend in politics, get a dog, because you cannot trust these politicians. They will toss you overboard like that, no hesitation, if that's what they think they need to do to stay in office, because that is all anybody in that building cares about. All right, so that is stage two. Now imagine, put yourself in these guys' positions. They've been busting their butt for months. They get elected. They go to these meetings. They go to this victory dinner. Everybody is giving them ass hickeys, right? They're kissing their butt. What do you think is the natural tendency to happen? Suddenly they feel super special. Today was the new member orientation at the Capitol. New member orientation, walking around the building. It's the opulence, the granite, the marble. They're walking through here's how the process works down here. They're being toured around by other legislators. Boy, it just goes right to their head. Right to their head. Most people, not all. I'm certainly an example of not letting that get to my head. So stage 3 is addiction. They get addicted to this, the prestige, the status of being a legislator. Other legislators, I mean, you walk around the building, I was shocked by this. You walk around the building and other legislators are like, "Good morning, Representative." And I'm like, "Representative, my name's Eric." But they call themselves "Good morning, Senator." "Good afternoon, Representative." The pomp and circumstance in that place is off the charts. So I never called anybody representative. I just would call them, "Hey, what's up, Melissa?" And Melissa Hortman, the few times I ran into her, she wouldn't even say hi. I'd be like, "Hey, good morning, Melissa." And she just wouldn't even utter a hello or a good morning. Like, it's crazy how Democrats claim that they're the party of tolerance and of civility when they can't even say good morning to a person. And that she wasn't the only one. Ryan Winkler's the same way. Kurt Dowd's the same way. Can't even say hi. It's just the pettiness. So this addiction kicks in, stage 3. All that matters to people who really fall deep into stage 3, which again is the most people, is they realize, wow, I don't want to leave this. They want to preserve it. They love being treated the way that they're treated. And suddenly this desire to stay in that position of power and to feel like they are now somebody, all that matters to them is staying in office. That's it. And it's unfortunate, but that is the reality. And again, this is what's happening right now to people you just voted for 2 days ago. So please know this. Call them, text them tonight if you know some of these guys, and say, "Hey, don't let these ass hickeys get you, go to your head. Please do something like that, because they are going to get addicted to this, and then principles are gone. They throw them away. All that matters is staying in office." And then I made a note of this. I didn't realize this when I got elected. They call the legislators members. So you've got staff, you have members. And if anything screams, this is all a giant club, it's calling people members. So that's just a funny little note. So that's stage 3. They're addicted. They don't want to lose it. And this will literally kick in by this weekend. That's why I'm saying by this weekend, a lot of people will be sold out. So again, the urgency here is call these people, text these people, tell them you appreciate them, congratulate them for winning, but warn them what's about to happen, because maybe we can save some of these people. Stage 4 will come eventually. This is the crossroad that I was talking about. You've got Principled Boulevard doing what they told you they would do when they were campaigning, or you have Sellout Street. Again, these roads go in 2 different directions. So the longer you get down one, Sellout Street, it's a lot harder to go back over to Principled Boulevard. And actually, I suppose it's pretty easy to go from Principled Boulevard over to Sellout Street, but it's not easy when the leadership sees you that you are bought and paid for, and you are just one of them. You're a lapdog legislator. Man, it's tough to leave that Sellout Street and become a principled person again. So this crossroad eventually will happen. And likely it won't happen until they actually have to start casting votes. So that'll be early January. And then even early January, it's pretty simple stuff. There's not a lot of controversial things happening. But what will happen now that they have built these friendships, and I always laugh at that because it's such a joke. Like there's no friendships in that building. There's no sincerity in that building. So the people who say, well, Mort, this is an important point, actually. The people are like, Mort, you're a business guy. Why don't you understand the value of relationships? And it's like, I do. In business, politics is not business. Like, if your concern is being friends with these guys in the Capitol, you are dumb, because here's why. What will happen if these guys and gals, who ran on, say, reducing the size and scope of government, like every Republican across the country runs on, And then, of course, most do the opposite. Let's say someone wants to take a stand and say when they're in office next year, they want to introduce an amendment to actually reduce government growth by 10%, or reduce government spending, I should say, not just reduce the rate of growth, but reduce spending by 10%. What will happen is leadership, largely Kurt Dowd and New Brindley, they're going to sit down with that person. And it's kind of like, there's like an escalation of force when it comes to, law enforcement. You don't like pull someone over and generally, go guns a-blazing, right? That rarely ever happens. There's, this escalation. Well, it's the same thing in politics, right? Leadership doesn't go from, hey, you're my best friend, you're my brother, you're my family member, to you're kicked out of caucus. There's escalation that happens in there. So let's say you're Representative whoever, Billy. You're Representative Billy, and you're like, by golly, we need to reduce government spending by 10%. And I'm going to do an amendment to this spending bill to do it. Leadership's going to say, hey, Representative Billy, if you do that, that is going to be really tough and they'll pick the squishiest, softest, weakest Republican that they think they're friends with. And they'll say, Representative Jimmy John over there. Representative Jimmy John's in kind of a purple district. If you force a vote to actually reduce the size and scope of government that they all promised, Representative Jimmy John might not get reelected. And don't you like Representative Jimmy John? Like, I thought you guys were buddies. Like, you don't want to see Jimmy John gone, do you? And Representative Billy is going to go, oh yeah, man, he is my buddy. I'd hate to lose him. And further, what they'll do, if that's not enough, is they'll say, well, if we really do that, then you might risk our majority. And of course, Republicans aren't in the majority, but they'll say, well, you might risk our ability to attain the majority. And you don't want to be the person to blame for us not getting the majority, do you? Like, we got to get the majority in here. And that is instantly where 99.5% of these guys will say, holy cow, yeah, leadership's right. I better not do that. And now that person is on sellout street. They're gone. And I think a lot of times they don't even realize it because, the way leadership's going to position it, it just seems like it's the right thing to do. And what makes this even more dangerous and why I want people to know this is what happens, like this is legitimate, is when you, the voters, go to say Representative Billy and say, hey, in campaign season, your literature said reduce government spending by 10%. How come you haven't done it? Representative Billy will be a puppet for leadership. And they'll go to their constituents and say, you don't understand. If we do that, we're not ever going to get the majority around here because we might lose Representative Jimmy John back in the corner. And then, unfortunately, a lot of those constituents, they're going to have, liked this person, Representative Billy, this guy making up. And they're going to go puppet that message to their friends and their family. And that's how we get like nothing done. What we should be doing is putting Representative Jimmy John on the flipping record to say, are you with us on this? Now, being in the minority, it's a little challenging. And I'm going to get into that in a minute, too, because talking about this first caucus meeting coming up on Friday morning, it's I went to that one 2 years ago, and there was some very interesting conversations and very interesting things happening. So I've got some footage of that day that I'll be playing for you. And we talk about Republicans in the minority or whoever's in the minority. If it's Democrats, Republicans, if you're in the minority, boy, you probably aren't getting anything done. And I will play you a short clip about that same thing. So those are like the 4 steps. I want to look at my notes. Am I missing anything? Yeah, leadership uses this bullshit friends and family against these newly elected legislators. That is such a huge point. So that's why, I when I looked at the cap, I'm like, I don't want to be friends with any of these guys because I know if I'm suddenly friends with these guys, I'm going to just, human nature is going to be like, well, I'm going to put that friendship above the principles and above the policy that I campaigned on. So this notion that you have to have relationships in the Capitol building, which is what they all want you to believe. They need you to believe that is true. It's just the polar opposite is true. Okay. Yeah. So like I said, everyone who was just elected will ultimately have to pick one of these 2 paths. And there is no third path. That's another thing. Everything in that building is binary. You vote yes or you vote no. You give hands for roll call votes. You don't give hands for roll call votes. There is no third option. And I know of one particular newly elected legislator that I know for a fact he thinks there's some third path that is just, this wonderful place to be. But I'm telling you, there is no third path. And another way to look at this is these two paths. When I say there's Principled Boulevard and then there's Sellout Street, another way to look at this is Sellout Street protects politicians and protects their political careers. Principled path is fighting for the people. And that's where my, slogan, fighting for people, not politicians, comes from, because that is really the divergence that takes place. Hugely, hugely important. Again, this is some pretty raw stuff, very real. Not everybody's ready for, this sort of unvarnished truth, but the more people who know, the better chance we have of ultimately taking back this state and holding these politicians accountable. So this is how people slip into the swamp and become a member. And I do think a lot of them don't even realize it because they're so naive. It's like a new job. And they just look to leadership to go, well, they know best. I'll just do what these guys tell me. And suddenly they're part of the problem, not part of the solution. Let's see. Oh, here we go. All right. So what time is it? Oh, it's been 30 minutes already. So this past election cycle, obviously disappointing for anybody who happens to enjoy some semblance of freedom. And I think a lot of us are looking now going, well, what now? And how did we even get here? And to me, a lot of this blame has to do with the Republican establishment, quite honestly. I mean, we've got Kurt Dowd, who spent hundreds of thousands of dollars against some of the strongest conservatives across the entire state. He spent 65 grand against me, 65 grand against Mark Bischofsky, like 17 grand against Pam Altendorf. I think in total is like over $300,000 spent against Republicans. A lot of them were endorsed candidates. So, and that money was spent through the Jobs Coalition. And for those who maybe have been watching some of my videos for a while, I've already talked about and teased the Swamp Exposed video. So people are like, well, I already did that. True. But in that video, I talked about Kurt Dowd is behind the Jobs Coalition. And I dared Kurt Dowd, say I'm lying, deny it. Ann New is behind the Jobs Coalition, deny it. And of course, they never did. But I figured, what the heck, since I'm here tonight and we're talking about this, and I know that this first caucus meeting's on Friday morning, and I know they're all having dinner here momentarily, wherever the heck they're having dinner. I've never been invited to their victory dinner, even when I won 2 years ago. They didn't invite me. And they didn't invite me this year either, actually. So anybody who is going and thinks, because they claim all Republicans are invited, incumbents and people who win. That's a lie. So here you go. I've got a video for you. Let's pop over here. And this video is 1 minute and 11 seconds long. There's going to be two people speaking in this video. And I've put images over the top of the audio so you can at least see who's talking. But this is from that caucus meeting 2 years ago. And so if you are wondering, because I know a lot of people in my district here in Shakopee got nasty mailers from the Jobs Coalition about me. People in Mark Bischofsky's district got a lot of nasty mailers from the Jobs Coalition about him. Anybody who takes Principled Boulevard and actually votes their values and votes in alignment with the constitutional oath that they took gets attacked by the Jobs Coalition or the HRCC. But if you're an incumbent or an endorsed candidate, they always use the Jobs Coalition. They did it to Cal Barr, they did it to Jeremy Munson, they did it to me, they did it to Mark Bischofsky. So people are wondering, well, who the heck is the Jobs Coalition? Because, boy, Jobs Coalition, who's anti-job? It must be a great organization with a name like Jobs Coalition. Well, here you go. I'll play this video about who the Jobs Coalition is and why it exists.
Obviously, also, we've been working really closely with Tommy Miracle for years. He works for Taylor Corp with Glenn Taylor. And he specifically raises money for the Minnesota Jobs Coalition, which does a lot of our independent expenditure work. We can't take corporate money. as the HRCC, but the Jobs Coalition can take that corporate money. So it gives an avenue for us to reach donors who may not give out of their own pocket, but they'd love to give out of their corporate money. So Tommy's done a ton of work on that as well for us, not just to the MJC, but also to the RLSC. So, because they also have invested in our races over the years too. So
yeah, and that whole thing was something new that we've done and cultivated over the course of the last 8 years. It's something that didn't really exist before. Some states, like Wisconsin, next door to us, they can take corporate money. So it was a huge opportunity that we weren't utilizing before, and now it's a big part of how we put our campaigns together. So very appreciative of them.
do you want to go over some of the spending?
There you go. I'm tempted to play that again because there's kind of a lot in there. And the audio is a little dicey, but I think that was pretty clear. They're saying, Kurt Dowd is saying, we started the Jobs Coalition 8 years ago so we could take corporate money that they couldn't otherwise take. And then Ann New is saying, yeah, then we use that money to work on our own campaigns since the HRCC can't take corporate dollars. So to me, that is very interesting because they're essentially, maybe it's falling just short, but they're essentially saying, yeah, we as the HRCC, which is a campaign committee, is coordinating with the Jobs Coalition to do our mailers and do our independent expenditures. When she says IEs, that's what she's referring to do them for us. Two campaign committees cannot coordinate like that. That's a very big no-no. So there they are admitting that they started the Jobs Coalition, they're behind the Jobs Coalition, and they use the Jobs Coalition to their own benefit, right? And they took $1.2 million from it. Is it the RLSC, I think? If you look up the RLSC, of course, if you scroll down who leads the RLSC, you'll find who else? Kurt Dowd and Ann New. And so their mission, the RLSC, and maybe it's RLCS, whatever, I think it's RLSC. Their mission is to help conservative Republicans win in state legislative races. And it makes me wonder, does the RLSC know, because there's more people on their board than just Dowd and Ann New, do they know that Kurt Dowd and Ann New are using that $1.2 million from the RLSC to bash the strongest voting conservative Republicans in the entire state of Minnesota? And I don't know the answer to that, but it kind of makes me want to reach out to them and say, hey, do you realize you guys are blowing wads of cash attacking the best voting constitutional conservatives in the state of Minnesota? And of course, Kurt Dowd and Ann New are promoting their lapdog legislators that will gleefully take sellout street, as I've referred to several times, and do whatever they're told by party bosses. So that is a very, very interesting clip. And what I didn't get in there, Ann New, I can't remember if it was earlier or later, but she goes on to say that, yeah, a lot of our donors, their donations come with strings attached. I mean, literally, I deny it, Ann New, deny it, please, because I'll do another one of these. So they're admitting, yeah, we sell their votes. Yeah, we sell them to, our donors. They're literally admitting they're bought and paid for. Pathetic stuff. So the next thing I wanted to get into here is we talk about being in the minority and what it's like to be in the minority. And I'm shocked Republicans in the House are in the minority again. But let me clue you in on something. The Republicans in the minority will likely get nothing done, which, is, I actually did pass a handful of bills. All the lies around town, of course, they were spread like wildfire, but they weren't true. But it's interesting because you got Ann New and Kurt Dowd working against Republicans who, of course, a lot of us lost. They're still in the minority now. Kurt Dowd should resign in disgrace. This is really why he has won the Rhino of the Year award. His whole job as minority leader is to win the majority, and he has failed now 3 election cycles. So, yeah, Kurt Dowd and New party leadership, senior party folks, senior legislators working against endorsed candidates or well voting incumbents like myself. We had no endorsement in my race until August. But I thought this was interesting because Not only that, but they also sent out mailers, and they were all over Facebook. And I'm kind of just talking about my race now, saying, well, Mortensen couldn't get anything done. Even Republican establishment types were saying he couldn't get anything done. Well, let's go back 2 years, because I've got some more great footage for everybody. Let's go back 2 years and let's listen to Pat Garofalo on Friday morning, the day after the election in 2020. And let's just listen to Pat Garofalo, one of the senior members down at the House and the House Republican Caucus. What did he tell me 2 years ago this Friday? Let's take a listen. This is 40 seconds. It's a little rougher to hear.
This is a system, right? How things happen. You are a first-term member in the minority. That's as low as it is. Yeah. And it's not you personally. It's, everyone else. Your authority and power comes from being in the majority. It's like if there's 68 members, and the difference between 68 and 67 is the difference between 33 degrees and 32 degrees for water. It's water and ice. And so right now, the best thing you can do is just learn. Right? I'm not going to be able to get anything done. You're not going to be able to get anything done because we're in the minority.
So it's the audio is a little rougher, but at the end, Garofalo says, look, we're in the minority, right? It's like the difference between 33 degrees and 32 degrees. At 32 degrees, water freezes. 33 degrees, water's wet. So he's saying if we had 68 people here, we're in the majority, boom, we're going to town. But we only had 64. And then at the very end, I kind of want to play it again, he said, I'm not going to get anything done, referring to himself. And he said, you're not going to get anything done. He said, nobody here is going to get anything done. And so, this is kind of why I'm playing this, because these clowns that sat there 2 years ago and told me to my face, the guy was, 2 feet away. He's like, you're not getting anything done. I'm not getting anything done. We're in the minority. It sucks. Well, what do those same establishment Republicans do for the last 6 months is they come out attacking me and saying, Mortensen didn't get anything done. Well, wait just one damn minute. You assholes told me 2 years ago that I wouldn't get anything done. But in fact, I actually did get a couple things done. So that's Pat Garofalo. And again, I guess my overall point is the insincerity from these people, to say, hey, we're in the minority. Don't worry about it. It's nothing personal, nothing against you. You're not getting anything done. And then come campaign season, they say, well, that guy couldn't get anything done. It's like, man, yeah, that's what you said 2 years ago. And you said nobody in the Republican caucus is going to get anything done. And then you got Kurt Dowd and Nandu admitting they're behind the Jobs Coalition and spending hundreds of thousands of dollars against endorsed candidates. And by the way, in that same meeting, I called Kurt Dowd out and said, well, hey, this is interesting. You're talking about how you use these groups to win elections. And I asked him, but are you planning on telling everybody in this room how you use the Jobs Coalition to campaign against people like me and Jeremy Munson? Is that going to be on the agenda here today? And he didn't appreciate that answer or that question. So I had to play that. And then, I was on Action for Liberty show yesterday, and I had never seen this, but I thought I've got to play this again because I don't think people realize. And then I already talked about how leadership will use these supposed relationships to leverage people into corners and make them change their behavior and go down this sellout street path. And a lot of times that threat could be, well, we won't get the majority if you do this, or we'll lose the majority if you do that. Well, here we've got a guy, State Representative Tony Jurgens, who's been in the House, I think, 6 years. And he wanted to, of course, climb the political ladder, like a lot of these guys. So he was going to run for Senate. Well, he tries to run for Senate, but a really good guy, Tom DePel, he ran for Senate too, for the same seat. Well, Tom DePel gets endorsed, and I think he got endorsed huge, like 70-30. But of course, Tony Jurgens, being one of these incumbents who's can't lose a race, can't stop the butt kissing, the ass hickeying. He wants to get elected. He wants to be part of the club. So he challenges DePel in a primary. So the primary, of course, was early August, and DePel trounces him by 20 points in the primary. So Tony Jurgens is licking his wounds. Poor him. He's not going to be in there. So what does he do? He's got personal vendetta against Tom DePel. And this is a guy, right? Tony Jurgens wanted to run for a Senate seat against this gal, Seeberger, I think is her name. He wanted to run against this Seeberger gal so that he could be the Republican to represent the district. Now, mind you, for those who don't know, a Senate district encompasses 2 House districts. And both of the House districts on Tuesday went Republican. But the Senate district went Democrat. And you want to know why it went Democrat? Because Tony Jurgens was so butthurt. And I should say, you know how big the majority is of the DFL has in the state Senate? 1. There's 1-person majority in the state Senate. And let's just play this, because this is just, this is just proof that this is just a unicorn.
Hi, I'm Tony Jurgens. For 6 years, I've been the Republican state representative for Hastings, Cottage Grove, and Afton. Now I'm endorsing Democrat Judy Seeberger for state Senate.
So the guy is so butthurt about losing in the primary that he endorses the Democrat in the race. And she wins. Both House seats went Republican, but she wins the Senate seat, which puts them into a 1-person majority. And the Democrats control the House. Walz is in the governor's mansion. And thanks to Tony Jurgens here, the DFL controls the Senate now too. So we lose that backstop that we've had for the last, 6 or 8 years. And now the DFL controls it all. So unbelievable what happens out there. And this is why we need to have a real opposition party that inspires people to want to go out and cast their ballot. But it can't be these weak, watered down Republicans that are no better than the Democrats themselves. Just by some proof right there, Tony Jurgens endorsing the woman he wanted to run against. Like, if he had won the primary, would he have endorsed this Seeberger gal? I mean, it makes no sense at all. It's just pathetic. But the fight goes on, I guess, is where I need to leave this, because obviously Democrat policies have been failing all across the country. We live it. We see it. The press secretary, I can't remember her name, but she lies to us every day and says, no, the economy is great. It really is like, it's just Orwellian. If you've read 1984, it's like the Ministry of Truth. You're just supposed to believe whatever these people tell you. Don't believe your lying eyes. Things you can see for yourself. You're supposed to just believe the people in power. But you see these things failing. I know companies all across the state are starting to lay people off, and the Democrats have to own it. And I tell you what, the answer, I've been getting emails from people who are going, what do we do now? The answer certainly isn't quit. Like, you can't just quit, not at all. Now, if you want to pick up and move to Florida, I don't really blame you. But if you're sticking around in Minnesota, you can't just quit. They would love if you quit. They'd absolutely love that if you just stopped trying. So we've got to keep fighting for it. But I think we need to double down. We need to fight harder. We need to be better organized. So those are things that I've been working on. I've been emailing with people today, trying to plan some of these things out, trying to help recruit candidates. And we have to get rid of some of these complete rhinos out there. The Tony Jurgens, thankfully he's gone. But I guarantee he'll run again in 4 years, probably against the gal he just endorsed. And we've got to get rid of a lot of the party leadership down there, and we need to start talking about what's going on within the state party of Minnesota. So that's my message for tonight. If anybody wants to reach out and figure out how they can get involved, please feel free. You can reach out to me on my Facebook page. But this is going to be a huge battle over these next 2 years. And I'm certainly not going to go anywhere. Sorry, trolls out there. So sorry. But just because I didn't get reelected, which was never my top priority anyway, my top priority is preserving liberty. I'm still in this battle. So you can, I guess you'll have to enjoy that. So that's what I've got for you guys. I'm going to sign off. But I guess I'll take a look at these comments. 100 comments. Holy smokers. Yeah, well, let's see. Double down. Absolutely. Let's see. I'll scroll back. Wow, how does that work? I don't know what you mean, Jen. Sorry, I'm just scrolling through the comments here. Brian Casey, this guy runs the local Democrat Party. This guy is a flippin' clown. Actually, at your town hall, you said you won't get anything done. So what does do here? Well, no, I never said that at the town hall. But I do remember what you said at the town hall, Brian. You said it twice. You said, well, Eric, I got to give you credit. you did exactly what you said you would do. He said it twice. He offered no additional context, because right now is when he's feverishly typing on his keyboard saying you left out the context. There was no other context, which shocked me. It just proves how much of a political moron Brian Casey is. Let's see. But I appreciate you admitting that I did exactly what I said I would do. Boy, it looks like it's just a bunch of bickering going on in here. I guess that's generally what these turn into. Dark money. Linda Ann, another local troll here, says, you're not running again. Does that mean you're quitting? Well, I think I explained that pretty well. You do not, and this is important for everybody. If you think you need to be an elected official to make meaningful political change, you are sorely mistaken. Absolutely sorely mistaken. Everybody wields this political power. It's like in your back pocket. It's just, are you going to pull it out and wield it? And by that, I mean holding politicians accountable when they fail you. So you do not have to be in office. That's generally what people think. And believe me, the people in the Capitol want you to think that. They want you to think that they hold all of the political power. And if you want anything done, you need to go contribute to the ass hickeys. And I'm telling you, you do not have to do it. And I'm happy to talk to anybody who wants to learn different ways to be able to hold these people accountable. Brian Casey, nice lie. That's the truth, brother. You remember it. You've acknowledged it. In fact, I've been the only one at the Capitol. These clowns that accuse me of lying, like, please give me an example, prove something, because literally I've been telling people exactly what happens. And not everybody likes this, this level of truth, but people need to know it. So I'll sign off here. Thanks for watching, and we will definitely stay in touch, because there's no quitting happening here.